Who would win in the eternal debate between pets, an incredibly intelligent cat, or an endlessly loyal dog? At first glance, the answer seems obvious. Cats are often seen as cunning geniuses who understand everything but live by their own rules. Dogs, on the other hand, are called man's best friend, the very symbol of loyalty, protection, and devotion. And that is exactly why this argument has never really gone away. But here's the most interesting part. If we strip away the myths, the emotions, and the familiar stereotypes, the answer turns out to be nothing like what most people expect. Because one of the biggest popular myths about cats and dogs simply does not match reality. By the end of this video, we're going to figure out who really comes out ahead, not by comparing beautiful legends, but by looking at real behavior and scientific evidence. People have been comparing cats and dogs for thousands of years, and not just out of curiosity. These two species have lived alongside humans for a very long time, yet they behave so differently that it's almost impossible not to ask, which one is actually better? One pet seems independent, cautious, and calculating. The other seems open, social, and ready to follow a human anywhere. And the stronger the contrast, the stronger the urge to choose a winner. But the debate itself is already a little misleading. Intelligence and loyalty are not two versions of the same trait. They are completely different things. Intelligence is connected to learning, memory, observation, problem-solving, and adaptation. Loyalty is connected to social attachment, trust, cooperation, and the ability to build a stable emotional bond. The problem is that most people judge animals through human expectations. We tend to think if an animal obeys, it must be smart. If it doesn't obey, then it must be either stupid or stubborn. But nature is much more complicated than that. And the main question of this video is this: what matters more for survival and for life with humans? High intelligence or the ability to form a strong emotional connection? To answer that, we first need to understand just how intelligent cats really are. When we talk about animal intelligence, the first thing we need to do is remove the human standard. Intelligence is not about solving school problems or trying to impress an owner. For an animal, intelligence is the ability to notice patterns, remember useful experiences, adapt quickly, and find solutions in real situations. And this is where cats are genuinely impressive. They are highly observant, they remember what works, they connect actions with outcomes, and they are very good at reading their environment. A cat can remember where food is hidden, what time a person usually goes to the kitchen, how a cabinet door opens, and which sound means food is coming. Many of them learn not through commands, but through direct personal experience. They try something, test it, and remember the result. Cats are especially good at solving problems that involve independent control of space, timing, and risk assessment. This is a very practical kind of intelligence. It is not about showing off, it is about survival, precision, and saving energy. That is why a cat may seem indifferent to training even when it fully understands what is being asked. And this brings us to an important distinction. Lack of response is not the same as lack of ability. A cat often refuses to follow a command, not because it cannot, but because it sees no point in doing it. Many people mistake that independence for stupidity, when the real reason is completely different. A dog is more likely to cooperate automatically. A cat seems to ask an internal question first. Why should I do this? And if the answer is not convincing, it simply ignores the request. That is exactly why feline intelligence is so often underestimated. It is less demonstrative, but extremely subtle. Now let's look at dogs. Their greatest strength is not just obedience, and not only emotional warmth. From a scientific point of view, dogs are unique because of how deeply they are oriented toward humans. And this is not an accident. It is the result of a very long shared evolution. For thousands of years, the dogs that survived best alongside humans were the ones that could read human signals more accurately, fear contact less, cooperate more easily, and fit into human social life. Over time, this made dogs incredibly sensitive to our gestures, tone of voice, moods, and intentions. What we call loyalty is, in scientific terms, closer to stable social attachment and readiness for cooperation. A dog does not simply love its owner. It often sees the human as its main point of safety, guidance, and interaction. That is why dogs are so often willing to cooperate even without immediate reward. The contact itself matters to them, shared action matters, praise matters, the human being nearby matters. This is a very powerful evolutionary strategy. Where the cat bets on independence, the dog bets on connection. A dog is more willing to work in partnership, more likely to look to a human for cues, more ready to accept guidance, and quicker to build its behavior around relationships. And that does not mean its intelligence is somehow weaker. On the contrary, it is a special form of adaptation, and an incredibly successful one. But can intelligence and loyalty even be compared in the first place? In real life, everything depends on what exactly we mean by winning. If we are talking about learning commands, working with a human, and responding to signals, the dog will almost always have the advantage. It is naturally more tuned toward cooperation, quicker to engage in shared tasks, and more motivated by approval. If we are talking about independent problem solving, caution, observation, and the ability to act without constant guidance, the cat may look stronger. Its behavior is often more autonomous. It depends less on external leadership and is more likely to make decisions on its own. In everyday life together, things are just as mixed. A dog usually gives a human more obvious emotional feedback, greeting them, showing excitement, seeking contact, and adapting easily to the family's rhythm. A cat often creates a quieter, more selective, but still very real bond. It is not always nearby, but its trust often feels especially valuable, precisely because it is not given automatically. And if we are talking about emotional support, dogs again tend to have the advantage. They are better at reading human states, more willing to respond to them, and more visibly involved in contact. But that does not mean cats are incapable of deep attachment. They simply express it differently. And this is the moment to remember what result you expected at the start of the video. Most likely, you wanted a simple answer. Who won? But reality resists that kind of simplification. You cannot honestly declare an absolute winner when you are comparing different evolutionary strengths. One of the biggest mistakes owners make is expecting a cat to behave like a dog, and vice versa. People get offended by a cat because it does not run over enthusiastically, does not come every time it is called, and does not always want to stay close. But a cat is not supposed to love according to a dog's script. Its attachment style is different, calmer, more selective, and more dependent on feeling safe and in control. With dogs, the mistake is often the opposite. People underestimate just how much a dog needs attention, shared activity, and emotional contact. It is not enough for a dog to simply live nearby. For many dogs, relationships are built through participation, interaction, and constant social connection. Once you account for the nature of each species, relationships get much better. Cats need predictability, respect for boundaries, the ability to choose contact on their own terms, and a safe territory. Dogs need shared activity, clear signals, regular attention, and the feeling of being included in the family's pack. A huge number of behavioral problems begin not because the animal has a bad personality, but because the owner has the wrong expectations. When a person understands the psychology of their pet, they stop demanding a foreign nature from it. And that is when real mutual understanding begins. But there are still a few more nuances that surprise even experienced owners. First, loyal cats absolutely do exist. Some of them form a deep bond with one person, look for them, miss them when they are gone, sleep nearby, and struggle deeply with separation. Their loyalty is simply quieter than a dog's, which is why it is often underestimated. Second, highly independent dogs exist too. Not every dog is an endlessly obedient, emotionally dependent companion. Some dogs are strongly self-directed, highly autonomous, and more reserved in how they attach. Third, individual personality can matter just as much as species itself. Temperament, early experience, socialization, upbringing, stress levels, the human's behavior, and the environment all strongly shape how an animal behaves. That is why making broad conclusions based on one cat or one dog is almost always a mistake, and that is exactly why debates about which one is better so often go nowhere. People are usually not comparing species in general. They are comparing their personal experience with a specific pet, and personal experience is almost always narrower and more emotional than the bigger scientific picture. So who actually won? If we answer honestly, there is no winner, because feline intelligence and canine loyalty are not opposites, but two different evolutionary strategies. Cats win where independence, observation, caution, flexibility, and self-directed decision-making matter most. Dogs win where cooperation, trust, social sensitivity, and strong emotional bonding with humans matter most. The main conclusion is that each species is perfectly strong in its own role. A cat is not worse than a dog because it is independent. A dog is not simpler than a cat because it is loyal. They simply solve the same challenge of living alongside humans in different ways, and that is exactly what makes them so fascinating. Now it's your turn. Who would you choose, the smartest cat or the most loyal dog? Write in the comments which side you're on and why. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And in the next video, we'll dive into a question that is just as surprising. What do cats and dogs really think about humans?